clean up after yourself after you finish eating?
Personally, I do, especially if it's a clear indication that it is something you have to do.
The visitors or those handling the food, and after the meal, they tend to leave it behind because they tend to see operators with trolleys, cleaners with trolleys. So I believe their mindset is somebody is going to pick up my plate and go. But I would like to see more posters and more tray stations. If you're going to have your meal with the tray, which means at the end of the day, all your food and your utensils are going to be kept within the tray. And it's easy for you to just carry the tray and leave it to a tray station or a disposal station.
But do you think that by cleaning up after yourself that you're putting maybe the cleaners out of a job because you're taking away their livelihood?
Well, I've heard that argument before, but I mean, I'm sure they appreciate the help.
The reason why they have a job is because they are plates to clean. So if everybody starts to clean the place, then there may not be a need or maybe a lesser need for them.
Even if we do clean up after ourselves, I think that you still need people to sort of wipe the tables, and there's still jobs to be done, you see.
Well, there you have it. People using that as an excuse that, oh, the cleaners need a job, so I shouldn't clean up after myself because I'll put them out of a job. Rodney, your response to that?
No, as one of the interviews that was being done, the cleaners just do not have the time to clean the tables as fast as they should. So we can play a small part by just removing the tray, removing the bowls, and the cleaners will come and wipe the table, right, for the next guy, you know, who's going to occupy the table. Right?
Now, Rodney, the Singapore Kindness Movement did run a tray return campaign. How did that go, really?
Initially, it was quite positive. We could see, you know, the office workers were returning a tray. But after a while, it's back to business as usual. Trays were being left behind. Yeah.
So again, we fell back into our bad habits, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, we ended our first segment with talking about education. You know, maybe it's a question of conditioning. Singaporeans are so used to having everything done for them. We have maids at home. The government manages to have infrastructure that ensures that our country is clean and green. You know, what is it that is lacking in the way we educate young people to take personal responsibility, or people in general for that matter?
We get the kids to decorate the toilets, so they involve in the whole projects, and then the teens, when they use the toilets, they become very careful. Okay. So we don't see any toilet paper being stuck on the roof anymore.
Okay, that's a good way to educate children. What about adults? What would work for you? What would help you feel a sense of ownership of your environment, even if it's not within your home? Let's see what our audience has to say.
I feel that, you know, when you're at the hawker center, right, then after you finish your meal, then you just sit around with your friends, and then the cleaners themselves would automatically come and clear your table. So it's like, there's no sense of urgency for yourself to clear your tables because people are like just right at your doorstep trying to take your
stuff does away. This happen every time you're in a hawker center? What about the times when the cleaner wasn't there? Did you clean up?
At hawker centers, no, because the thing is that, is there really a station for us to put our plates?
Okay, that's valid. That's certainly valid. But what about at fast food restaurants? They have a tray return area.
Yeah,
do you do
restaurants,
it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I hope you're being honest.
Yeah.
But what you brought up about infrastructure at hawker centers is certainly valid. Rodney, perhaps you should address that.
That's right. Unfortunately, not all hawker centers have this infrastructure of trade retain stations, right? And we hope that, you know, private property owners will make it a station for them, for people to return the trays very conveniently. And it is strange that, you know, when the staff are able to return trays, like in my office and as well as the building that's next to my office, I see that being a wonderful job that they're doing. How come this habit is not being done when they're outside?
Why do you think that's the case, Puhin? What could it be? I mean, they're well trained in that environment, but once they leave, things might go differently.
I think peer pressure. Sometimes if you're in a fast food restaurant, you will just because everyone is doing it. So yes, I will do the same. Otherwise, I'll be one out.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But in the hawker center, they always say that everyone is not doing it. Why should I be the one who initiated it?
You know, to be frank though, from personal experience, every time I return my tray at a fast food joint, I get stared at. Because up till today, I'm still the odd one out. Most people do not return their trays, do not clear their tables. What do you guys think? What would help you return those trays? Would it be peer pressure? Would that work?
Personally, peer pressure, I don't think it plays like a really big role. Because, like some people, like me, I don't really feel that, like people will actually affect me, because I feel that it's my own responsibility to do such a thing. So I would just do it on my own anyway, even if I get stares, which I do.
That's very good, you know, and I think we have to learn to just stand up for what we believe in. I'd like to know, though, how did you start feeling that sense of responsibility without any prompting from your peers?
Honestly, it's because I feel a sense of pity for the people who are actually working. Because sometimes you look at the tables and you see a lot of mess, and then you feel like it's really a burden to clean up after people, because especially, you know, it's not your mess, and then you're cleaning it up. So like, I guess I just want to take away a little bit of the burden for the workers.
That's very nice of you.
Myself.
That's really nice of you. But I think a lot of people would feel they're getting paid to do it. It is their job. Now we can continue addressing this and other issues to do with graciousness. What would make us more gracious? What would make us have first world manners in a first world country? Stay with us. Welcome back to Singapore Talking. Really glad to have you with us. Now, if you have something to say, please SMS us. It's 73388. That's the number. And of course, today we're talking about Singaporeans and if we are gracious enough. Do we clean up after ourselves? We've seen several examples of us not being so gracious, not cleaning up after ourselves, and also other examples, you know, things like saying please and thank you, which I think is what your organization is all about, the Singapore Kindness Movement. Now, we spoke earlier a lot about education, that we need education. Perhaps the campaigns haven't quite worked out, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. You know, I do a radio show, and a lot of my callers say we are a first world country with third world manners. What do you think, Hui Hun?
We always say that toilet hygiene is an indicator of the level of the civilization of a country. A lot of time we take things for granted. The thing is there for us now, and it is very much that it's my entitlement.
And so we're a little self-centered, yes, don't you think?
Yes, become very self-centered. You know, I want to do just for myself. We are not so considerate.
You see, it's really funny. Most Asian societies are collectivist, not so much individualistic. Yet we seem to have turned that way. What's going on, Rodney, you think?
I tend to think differently because I've observed Hong Kong, right? I remember the very first time when I went to Hong Kong in the early 70s, the behavior of the shops there were just unthinkable. And there was a time when each time when I was asked to go to Hong Kong, I'll take the last flight in and the first flight out because of the attitude of the people in general.
Right.
But of late, when I visited that place, it has changed, right? The people, the way they serve, the shops, even the small coffee shops of theirs, the manners seem to have improved very significantly, much better.
What are they doing right?
Right. I think the shock of the 1997 was the one that kicked off, and to say, hey, we need to do something that is very significantly different, and we need to serve people well.
You know, you mentioned something really key there. They serve really well, and service standards in Singapore are also in question here, you know. So what would create a similar effect in Singapore, you think, Rodney?
I hate to wait for the moment that we have to suffer a 1997 kind of environment that bring us to reality and to wake us up. And I hope that will never happen to us before we change, right? And I hope that every one of us will do on our own without being forced to change under horrible circumstances.
So perhaps, as we said earlier, education is the answer, yeah?